Hey guys, did you miss me? Today we're gonna talk with someone really special. You knew it's coming. We are just a few hours from watching his rematch on WL 406 with Michael Todd. Of course, we are not talking about anyone else but Devon Larratt. Make sure to watch it on Make sure to watch it on Beer Live tonight. I think it's an amazing matchup and I'm gonna leave a link down in the description for you. But let's not waste any more time and talk with Devon. My first question will be, even though everybody probably knows this about you, but how often you pull on the table?
Well, that answer has varied a lot over the years. Um, it's always been the focal point of my training. So no matter what system or belief structure I've had about arm wrestling, even from the very beginning when I started to fall in love with arm wrestling, the arm wrestling day was always my focal point. I went through periods where I was doing it once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, um, and that whole kind of variation kind of depend. Well, when you start to do more arm wrestling, you start to realize that your gym starts to suffer,
Yep.
and that's kind of hard for people to wrap their minds around. Especially as a new arm wrestler, when you're equating strength to performance, and the strength that you get on the arm wrestling table is very, very hard to measure, especially in gym setting. So you won't always be charting gains there when you're doing a lot of table time. But I was recently, I became very inspired by Krasimir Konstantinov. He came over and he was telling me that he's like, yeah, man, he's like, I arm wrestle all day long.
Yeah, he happens to like 4 times a day or something.
Yeah, so I've been doing that for the past 9 weeks, and it's been great, really great. So this is the system that I've been running with, and I'll continue to do it, I think, until I find reason not to. But it's been really good. It's been a really good experiment so far. So I think that so long as you keep tabs on your body and don't get injured and be progressive, you can arm wrestle as much as you want. And for me, it's geez. The other day I arm wrestled 6 sessions.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can arm wrestle. You can arm wrestle all day long if you want. You can do that.
Well, yeah. So basically, wrestle is every day, right? if you
Every
feel
day
if you feel like it. Okay. How long do
if
you
you
usually
feel like it.
how long usually your table session takes?
Well, when you up the frequency, the length will go down. I typically do them too long because I'm having fun, and our table sessions. It's normally with people I really like, and we do a lot of talking and catching up. So uh, they can go longer. The group sessions normally last about 2.5 hours, 2.5 hours, which I think is probably a bit too long. When we do the more focused sessions where it's smaller groups and more specific and more really into precise training, we're going like half an hour to 45 minutes, but pretty good, like half an hour. And we're really only doing like maybe 12 sets, but they're good. They're all good sets.
Okay, so you're saying sets. You're doing like some specific exercises, or you're just pulling with everybody?
I mean, so to me, there's a couple different styles of practices, and there's the North American style practice where it's just very common. Like when you go to clubs in North America, you'll see guys come into a garage or a gym or whatever, and they'll arm wrestle right, left, and they'll bounce around from table to table, and they'll get a good sweat, and they'll get a good pump and a workout. And then there's like more structured training sessions where you're like, okay, I'm going to hit 5 rounds with a minute and a half rest between rounds, just like, so say you're getting ready for a WAL competition, so which I am, so a lot of times I'll just hit the time structure exactly. So five rounds, right hand, minute and a half break between rounds, and I'll hit that. So I'll do a quick warm up, blast out 5 hard rounds, and I'm done. I'm done. And then I'll do, so for the PAL style, so that's 6 rounds, 2 minutes rest. So quick warm up, blast it out, finished. So I'll do my right hand, do my left hand, session complete.
And would you recommend to a beginner this style of training, or you think you have to be a little bit more advanced?
I think that that's just fine. I think that the things that look different about my training and what a beginner's would look like is just the intensity that I'm working with is probably a bit too high. The effort's a bit too high. I'm probably a little bit out of position more than they should be. And I probably do it a bit more than they should. I think that beginners just have a lot of building to do. There's a lot of changes that are going to happen to your body and everything. So I think there's a lot of guidance that your body's going to give you, your body and your mind. If you don't want to do the training, don't do the training. If you're hurting, then you should probably stop. If it's feeling good, well, yeah, keep going. But we've had new guys try and, do this kind of training. It's very hard. Not to say you can't do it. I mean, when you start the sport of arm wrestling, it's like there are these steps people must kind of get through. The first one is showing up at practice. The next one is making it through that first practice, and then it's like, can you make it through that, pain that you're going to have for the first few weeks? And this style of training, when you start arm wrestling more and more, you're probably going to hit those spots again. You're probably going to start to get a lot of those pains again. So you do have to work through some of it, but yeah.
Yeah, so you basically have to listen to your body, right?
Yeah.
Okay, my next question. Do you hit a gym in between those sessions, or are you just strictly on the table?
Right, so, yeah, for the past 9 weeks, I haven't. Zero gym. I've done a little bit of movement training, so basically just moving my body, just to make sure that everything kind of works. I'd say almost like a form of yoga, a little bit of stretching, a little bit of walking, at times
so like a functional training or something like that?
Yeah, but very easy. It's almost like, I don't even want to call it maintenance. I'd almost call it just a checkup, I'm just really going far into specialization right now. It's just, and I'm having good success, so I'll continue until I have a problem. But in the past, I have done gym work, but ever since I kind of became like a full-time arm wrestler in 2016 when I, retired from the Army, I've just been becoming more and more specialized.
Okay, let's put the question the other way now. This is you, but for a beginner, would you recommend him to start in the gym?
Well, now when you say beginner and you say start in the gym, that's implying that they're already not in the gym.
Yeah, I mean like to build their strength and everything. Or you think, or you think the table is enough?
Well, this is what I would say. I would say that you should do what is in line with your goals. And if you're a beginner and you're like, man, I am 100% all in with this arm wrestling thing, 100%, I can see it all the way to the end, and I'm going to live my life as an arm wrestler. If you're some crazy new guy that can believe that, man, that's all you got to do. But if you're not really sure, and I want to be able to, you kind of want to be able to do other things, well, then don't commit so fully to the program. But am I chopping up a bit?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah, but you're good now.
Yeah.
Okay, now, when you did train with the weights, like this few weeks ago, What were your favorite exercises for arm wrestling? Did you have like special exercises or the compound moves?
Yeah,
I know you posted the videos on the YouTube, but what were your favorites?
yeah. Most of my favorite stuff that I was doing for. So I say it again.
No, no, I didn't say anything.
It clicked out there. What did you say, Flip?
No, I didn't say anything.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
And my favorite my favorite arm wrestling exercises in the gym were. I don't know if you're familiar with a tool called the multi-spinner. It's a thick handle with a single attachment point, and I do that with like a high or a low balance point, and that's probably my number one favorite exercise.
Wait, I'm
I
losing you
think
a
it's
little.
very close to arm wrestling, especially if you're pulling up some really powerful drives there. Your standard, kind of belt rolls, like just the big pronating through the thumb. Always like that one. And I got into, this kind of thing, these upwards drives. I think those four things are really important. I mean, you can't be a great arm wrestler without cupping, pronation, a little bit of supination, and rising. So I don't get too far away from those things. I found that the longer I trained for arm wrestling, the more I did less and less and less and less exercises. Till I got down to, really I was doing like 3 to maybe 4 exercises for arm wrestling, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, you think for arm wrestling strategy, it's better to do higher reps or lower reps?
I think you need a variety, and I think you should think about you should have some considerations when choosing your intensity and workload. I think whenever possible, whenever you feel up to it, you should have strength as your priority. So heavy, 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 and like just what you can barely move, and that's your target all the time. But you're going to have limitations in your connective structures. You're going to get tendonitis. You're going to get joint pain. This is honestly, it's hard to get around. It's part of the process. And when these things happen, you have to obviously downshift, go light, work movement, feed the connective tissues, get blood in there, stretch, so that once again you can hit those heavy weights.
Would you recommend to beginner to do full reps, or you think arm wrestlers are good just with the short range? Or not a beginner, to arm wrestle.
Well, I think that whatever you do, you get better at, and I think that the window outside of what you're doing is actually quite narrow, and it comes down to a lot of how much energy do you have to invest. So I think that, when you look at it like that, you just want to, if you want to be a great arm wrestler, invest heavily in something that's as close to arm wrestling as possible. And arm wrestling is very small movements, and it's very locked up. So I think that that's what you should spend the most of your time doing. There is an argument for the bank account of health, okay? If you want to be a really healthy person, I don't think that isometrics is healthier than full range. And I don't even have proof to that statement. It's more of a belief of mine that, if you want to be healthy and live a long time and have arms that work to do many things, probably doing full range motions is going to get you, to C90 and 100 and whatever years old. But if you really want to get good at arm wrestling, tight, get bent, get close, get locked up, get used to not getting opened up. Don't even worry about doing the rep. Just don't let anything open you.
Okay, so now a little bit harder questions because it's more of an opinion thing. But what do you think is the most important thing to start with when you're a beginner? Your wrist, bicep, Or what do you think is most important part of the arm wrestling to start training?
Yeah. Hmm. Hard to say.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that there's four good answers to where to start. Um, I think that you can start with your wrist, just your straight cup. I think that this is a great answer. The cup is the ace of spades in arm wrestling. Really doesn't matter the style that you're pulling. Really doesn't. Having a stronger cup is always going to be of great benefit. Um, so I think that this is always a very, very important part of your arm wrestling, and probably might be the most important part. I think that you should also potentially, depending on the type of person you are, make this pronation a very, very big part of your arm wrestling. Again, it's one of those things. If you're the right style of arm wrestler, it can be your ace. It can be your thing. The ability to keep your hand up, just up. I think that this is how I was actually started in the sport. I was told that this is the lead, and it's been a constant part of my game. This upwards motion in arm wrestling, though very hard to see at times, it lends itself to efficiency and better technical position in almost all moves. If you have more of this, you're typically the person who always ends up getting the better position, which is great. And the last one is just your ability to supinate. So I'd probably pick one of those four as my focal point, and I'd make sure that I was constantly making small deposits in all those areas, and I would probably encourage a guy not to get too far away from the cup.
Okay, and my last question for you is, if you could go back in time and give yourself one tip, what would it be?
Yeah, if I could go back, I would do a couple things. The first thing I would do is I'd really try and give myself a whole lot more patience. You know, people are very eager to win and to do well, and this is a constant state that people are always in. But I see a lot of young athletes, a lot of really promising young athletes take on challenges that they really don't need to take, that they would probably be better off just to wait. There was a period when I was first kind of coming up, and I was starting to have good success when I started to pull open weight, and I was still just like 220. And while it was great, and while it was great to have challenges, you know, I probably would have pushed my surgery off longer if I had just stayed in my weight class a little bit longer. It's hard to say if it was right or if it was wrong. Also, you have to understand that every exercise that you do is at a cost. While exercise is stimulating, it's stimulating because of damage that you're doing to your body. And a lot of people start trying to replicate the real high intensity of arm wrestling, and it's just it's too hard, it's too damaging on the body, and it's too far above what their body's able to deal with. So it turns more into just doing damage as opposed to just slightly stimulating. Like, there was a period when I was like dropping weights and catching them, you know, to try and replicate the hit, and I think that a lot of this just sets you further back than it does push you forward. So I would just try and have more patience and understand that the whole arm wrestling game is just going to take time. Like, people have goals and they want them right now, but it's gonna take time.
Great. Yeah, and I have one more special question for you. I know this video gonna come up the same day you're gonna be at WL 406. So are you ready for Michael Todd?
Oh Oh yeah, it's gonna be great. So if this is coming out the same day, yeah, the trash talk is done. I really have a ton of respect for Michael. I think he is one-on-one professional arm wrestling. You know, it's as elite as it gets. He's been relevant on the world level for the past over 10 years. So if you are the number one guy in the world for over the past 10 years and you've got a match with Michael, you know that there's a good chance he can beat you. So it's a big match. For me, this is the match that makes me once again relevant in the super heavyweight division. So it's a big match for me. I feel good. I'm healthy. I'm trained. I'm ready to kill it.
Well, you seem prepared. So anyway, I wish you good luck. Thank you for your time.
All the best to you, Filip.